Hello, this is Steve from ObjectRiver. Today we're going to be talking about the JAXRS web services. We're going to be using the Intellij Java IDE for this demo. You can download this, the Community Edition, from the web. The other toolkit we're using is the ObjectRiver REST Web Service Toolkit. This toolkit is totally free, open source. You can download that from the internet also. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the Hello World application inside the ObjectRiver samples directory. So what we have here is an empty IntelliJ project. There's no source here. The one thing there is there's a model. And this model is a representation of three web services for Hello World. And the language you're looking at is like a JAXRS-like language describing these web services. The first one, Hello Query, passes the hello param as a query param in the URL. The second one is a path param in the URL. And the third one, it passes the hello argument in the body of the example. The other thing we have loaded is the ObjectRiver Cloud Compiler. So what we're going to do here is we're going to configure this example to run the Cloud Compiler. We're going to run the compiler for this JAXRS REST application, client and server. I'm going to go select the model here, put in an email. The module, delete the build here because we don't need to build it. And now what we've done is we've configured the cloud compiler and we're going to run it against the model. What this is going to do is it's going to contact Amazon Web Services and run the compiler, which will generate all the code, client and server, for this application. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little configuration. We generated tests, so I'm going to designate this directory as tests. And we also generated some libraries, and I need to put in the dependencies there. So now what I'm going to do, to run this application, you have to generate a WAR file. On the right here is we have an Ant build system, and we're going to generate this WAR file. What this is just a Java library that you use to deploy to web servers to deploy your server. If we look at the source code that got generated, we generated client and server stubs. In the server, in the services directory, these three Java files were generated. If we look at one of these, what this is a standards-based JAXRS Java application with these annotations describing the hello path web service. At the bottom, we have an implementation of this, and what the system does is it generates server mocking. It replies with random data. So we're going to change this to say hello YouTube instead of random data. So now that we've made that change, we also generate a web server that runs in the IDE. This is really important for debugging your server, so you don't have this complexity of trying to debug it in a web server. We call this the IoT web server. This means Internet of Things. It's a very small application, so you could run it in very small environments. So I'm going to run this server. Now the server is running in the IDE. I'm going to go to the test directory and I'm going to run this example, which is going to execute all three web services. Now what this did, what we do is we do client and server mocking. So on the client side, we're supplying mocked answers. You can see random data for the argument hello. In the second example, we changed the implementation, and so you can see we're supplying hello YouTube there. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to look at the server. The server, you can see it's logging those requests that came in. I'm going to terminate the server. I'll generate the WAR file again to put our changes into the WAR file. Next thing I'm going to do is we're going to generate a Docker server. Docker is a technology where you have these containers and you can easily deploy them to a Docker environment on the internet. So I'm going to generate a Docker image. And what this image is it takes our server and it puts it in a container that's Tomcat based. Tomcat is a standard based web server. So that's generating the image, and I'm going to run the Docker server. So now I'm running the Docker server. That first error said it couldn't, it tried to stop a previous implementation, but the server is running. Let me go to just the console window, and we'll say Docker images. And now you can see is we have a low server image, and this is built on top of a Linux version called Alpine and the web server named Tomcat. If I go Docker PS, this is going to show me the running hello server running in a Docker container. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run our client application again. And now what you're seeing is this is the results that the client got, but now instead of talking to the IoT server, it's talking to the backend Docker server. So it's this simple. Basically, with just this definition of these services, you can generate client and server REST web services with the ObjectRiver toolkit. Again, this toolkit is open source, totally free. If we look at this library, here's one of the libraries that we copied down. This library contains all source. So you've totally have everything you need, including all the source for your application you're trying to build. Thank you.